Good evening, Broncos country. Let's give it a minute for the stream to breathe here. Want to make sure all of our platforms are included for tonight's lively discussion. All right, and I see green check box across the board again. I am one of your hosts, Ron White. On that side of me, you know him, you love him as Dylan Vaughn Arts. Dylan, how are you doing on this lovely college football upset rivalry weekend?
Doing pretty good. Yesterday it was my mom's birthday, so we had a little party for her, and
Happy belated.
it was very awesome. Lots of good food, and then coming into today, a lot of good college football, and for you wrestling fans, Survivor Series tonight. I'm gonna have to go and watch that after I finish up here. But all in all, pretty solid weekend, and we get the Broncos in just a few days on Monday night, prime time, baby.
Yes, a prime time matchup. So I'm definitely looking forward to that game against the Browns, and obviously we'll get into that, guys. Yeah, same here. Doing well again today. Was just getting back in town. I'm visiting the family, and now just watching some college football, and it was nice to see a few of those upsets earlier. So I'm looking forward to, I think, the matchup tonight here, which is Texas and Texas A&M. So that should be a fun one. All right, let's see who all we have joining us tonight. We have the Papa Bear, David McElrath, coming in with a super chat. Thank you, David. You know we appreciate you, my guy, as always. Says, good evening, Broncos country, Ron and Dylan. Hashtag 10 and 7, maybe more. Hashtag let's go Bo. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Buckham times 3. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Hashtag Knicks for 6. Yes, David, thank you again for coming in and staying true to that record prediction, my guy. We appreciate you.
Yeah, man, always good to see you in the chat, David, and always the first comment. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone ever beats you to it. So always good to see you, man. Much love to you.
Yes, yes, for sure. All right, let's see who else we have popping in here. We have Mr. David Youngkin saying, thank you, David, again for coming in. Says, what's the old saying? Next man up. Yes. Next man up indeed. And this does go with William. Thank you for William for coming in. Catalano says, sucks Moss is out. Does Levi Wallace take his place this game? He hasn't been too bad, right? When he has had to go in. Yeah, so it's looking like from the injury report for everyone here joining us that Raleigh Moss will be out for Monday's matchup against the Browns. He suffered that MCL injury in the first half against the Las Vegas Raiders. And as far as Levi Wallace, yes, so Levi Wallace will be your next man up. And, veteran, very good experience, Dylan. He should be able to step right in now. Obviously he's not going to be Riley Moss. The athleticism of Riley and just the ball hawking ability jumps off your screen. But Levi Wallace for sure can definitely come in and hold the fort down. And I think for this game for sure, that also gives Riley Moss an extra week because after this week is the Broncos bye. And after the bye, he should be able to, if all fingers crossed, if everything checks out, probably should be able to go then. But yeah, Levi Wallace will take the spot. And it's a little bit of a concern, but I wouldn't be overly concerned due to the experience that Levi Wallace does have.
Yeah, and he filled in pretty admirably this last game, and I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, you would love to see Riley Moss out there. He's made this secondary just so much better. In addition to Patrick Surtain and Jaquan McMillan, I think that the Broncos should be fine. Obviously, there's a couple of weapons that the Browns have that could be a little rough. Jerry Jeudy's a good route runner, but I'm sure PS2 will be following him as much as he can. Cedric Tillman is still injured. I don't believe he practiced again today.
Mhm.
But beyond that, I mean, you got David Njoku as well. But I think Levi Wallace will be just fine. I mean, it's great to have a veteran presence in that cornerback room, and it is the next man up mentality. And I mentioned it a couple times last night. When there's an injury to a corner, if they're even 95 to 90%, that's enough for a wide receiver to take advantage of and blow him up just because of the cornerback position. All this backpedaling, you have to have fluidity in your hips, and if you're even just a little bit off, that could be lead to a big touchdown or a big catch.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So again, I think it shouldn't be too much of a concern. Sean Payton mentioned himself that they were thinking maybe Wallace. I'm sorry, that Moss could have came back in the game against the Raiders. But I think this is more, you know, cautionary. Just want to make sure he's fully good to go leading up into the bye into that next matchup against the Colts after the bye week. But thank you, William, for coming in, my guy. We appreciate it, and David as well. For that question, we thank you. Let's see who else we have hopping in the chat. David again coming in says, I think Sean will have a good game plan and Allen is playing, so VJ will have something up his sleeve. Yes. Yes, it is good. I saw that news and I was so glad that Zach Allen was a full go. Because him being up in that boot, it did scare me a bit, but it's good that he is off the injury report. And you're right, David. With Zach Allen back in the lineup, it's you'll definitely see them stopping the run, and this defensive line will definitely dominate, because you saw that last week, Dylan, that presence, Zach Allen's presence was missing, because there were several runs actually they just gashed him. The Raiders just gashed him. And so it's definitely good to have Zach Allen back. And I think BJ always usually has a good game plan. Now, the Ravens game notwithstanding, I do expect this defense as a whole to be up for the test.
Yeah, obviously the run defense was a little shaky against the Raiders, and that's going to happen when you have a guy like Zach Allen riding the bench because of an injury. And you just hate to see guys like Amir Abdullah, who's a little older for a running back. I believe he's 31. And then someone I'd never heard of until Sunday, Sincere McCormick. Like, who? And he's busting off some of these 10-plus yard runs. It's like, what are we doing here? So, in the end, they got the W, but we don't want those margins to be so close. We want Zach Allen in there. We want him getting pressures on the quarterback and stuff in the run, especially against a Browns defense or a Browns offense who's really struggled to get their ground game going.
Yes, for sure. And that Browns team, they're definitely the underdog this week. And speaking of Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog. With their pick'em game, you can win money by making entries with your favorite players. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on two or more players' stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower in player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 220 and a half passing yards this week? Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
So download the Underdog app today and use code MHuddle to get up to 1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to 1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Yes, yes. All righty. Got KB coming in. What's up, fellas? It's the PS2 and Raleigh Moss of podcasting.
Hey, we'll take
Thank
it.
you,
There
KB.
we
We'll
go.
take that one. That's a formidable duo, so we will take that any day of the week. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. And we got String Guy coming in. Thank you, String Guy. He says depth is a concern in the secondary. We need this game against the Browns. Dylan, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, we did mention Levi Wallace is a good fill-in, especially at corner. It's a very volatile position, like we mentioned. So they're good there right now. You also have Chris Abrams Drain, who's a rookie who's looked promising. Obviously, he hasn't seen snaps in the regular season this year, but the secondary, the safeties in general, that's where I am a little concerned. Whenever Brandon Jones isn't on that field, dude, he's a game changer. That interception in the Raiders game that shifted the momentum, and the Broncos just didn't look back after that. But yeah, I would say it's a little thin, more so at safety than corner.
I have to agree with you 100%. Yeah, String Guy, it's a bit concerning. You know, again, just on the safety room, the corners, as Dylan alluded to, are I'm good with. You know, I think Levi, as I said at the top of the show, Levi Wallace is an experience as they come. Again, a little bit, um, you know, kind of look a few steps back of Raleigh Moss, but you know, still more than capable. And you mentioned Chris Abrams James, who I liked, he looked very good in the preseason. So, but yeah, the safety room is that's kind of where my biggest concern is, because after a Brandon Jones and a PJ Locke, there's really not much left in the cupboard. I mean, you do like what you see from JL Skinner at times there, Dylan, but Devon Key, I just and he was exposed in that Ravens matchup. It was a bad sighting. So I think that's where the biggest concern is, String Guy. And you know, I do think that's, if we're looking for a group overall on the defense, I think that's something they'll need to invest in heavily, probably in the draft, because the safety depth is a big concern. It's been a concern of ours, even before the season started. So if they can get that depth addressed, I think that'll be good for the Broncos. But yeah, thank you for coming in with that comment. We appreciate it. All right, let's see who else we have coming in. See a few people asking about Bidet. Pro 16K, how bad is Bidet's back? No one seems to know. Yeah, I haven't heard much, Dylan. I looked, I did a little bit of research today. I didn't see any updates since he went down at the Jets game. I know he's on IR. I'm not sure. I know he had that window. He can come back to return, but I'm just not sure if he's ready yet. I thought it was reported that, you know, he would be back maybe later on in the season, but yeah, Pro 16 count. I'm not sure. I don't really have an update on that front on Bidet.
Yeah, you know, maybe depending on how far the Broncos get, he could be healthy. But yeah, no significant updates from today. And This running back room is a little crowded as it is. Obviously, Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, and Jaleel McLaughlin. The Broncos need to find something in their run game because I know people are like, oh, well, they're not blocking well enough for Javonte Williams or whatnot, but it's like, for the most part, it's his vision. He still has those vision problems. He's not hitting the hole like he should be, or he's making a cut into his offensive line, and it's just really frustrating to see. And then Estime's had his snaps reduced for some reason after he had a pretty good game a couple weeks ago. Not sure what that's about, but the Broncos just need to find something because the blocking's there. The offensive line has been a huge part of the success in the run and pass game. They've been just phenomenal.
Yeah, this run game is very concerning, and especially as it appears that the Broncos are going to be making this playoff push because they always say, Dylan, that there are two things that you need, and especially, well, I think for any quarterback to help any quarterback, but especially a rookie, a good defense and a solid run game. Now the Broncos have one, a very good defense. But this running game is wildly inconsistent. And you just mentioned the offensive line. I've seen more on film where the offensive line and run blocking has been very good. It's been good. Like they're out there like consistently displacing members on the defensive line. So I don't see where they're getting dominated at the line of scrimmage at all from the opposing team's defensive line whatsoever. But it's to your point, it's the details. It's Pookie not looking at the correct side of where to go run, or they're giving up too much space for the defender to come downhill to make the tackle. And then I like each of the running backs because they do provide something different. But and I know Sean Payton's kind of more that two-headed monster, kind of like a thunder lightning. Obviously, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara. But you need it would, I guess it would be very valuable if he has that bell cow. And the Broncos just don't have that right now. Now you thought it would have been Pookie, but as you alluded to, I think that I don't think he's ever going to be the same after that injury, after that knee injury. And Jaleel McLaughlin's been good, but you can't really count on a Jaleel McLaughlin all the time. I mean, when he comes in, he's good, like catching the passes out of the backfield, so on and so forth. And Audric Estime, think about this here, Dylan. So I'm pulling up some stats. Pookie, 445 yards on the season on 120 attempts. That's 3.7 yards a carry. Jaleel McLaughlin, 283 yards this season on 66 attempts, 4.3 yards per carry. Audric Estime, 179 yards on 38 attempts. That's 4.7 yards per carry. So, according to the math, and according to what Sean Payton mentioned a few weeks ago, Audric Estime needs to be the one on the field the most.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously he's had less snaps, so his average is higher. But like, hey, man, get him some more. Let's see what else he can do with it. And here's a pretty crazy stat I have pulled up here. So the Broncos sit at 16th overall in their rushing attack in terms of or overall with 1,339 yards. 300 of those are Bo Nix's, and if you take out Bo Nix's yards, they have 1,039, which is good for 26th in the NFL in terms of their run game. So that's not good, man. The run Bo Nix can't be. I mean, it's obviously it's nice. You can use his legs as a weapon, and that's all well and good. But he can't be like the focal point. We've seen plenty of games where he's taken over as the lead rusher on the team, and that's just a big no-no. You can't rely on your rookie quarterback to be the bell cow. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't. You can't at all. I mean, like you said, it's good to have Knicks run the ball in those design runs. You sprinkle that in your offense, but yeah, you can't have that be, the main course. You need to have that consistent guy. So, again, hopefully, we see kind of what Sean Payton mentioned a few weeks ago of he plans to have more Estime in the lineup. Hopefully, we see that come to fruition. Because when he's on the field, now we know the fumbles are an issue, or they were an issue, and I think that still might be a little bit of a concern. But when he's been ever since that last one, he's taking care of the football. So, but I that's just something that they need to figure out. A game plan moving forward, especially with this game and getting into the playoff push. And it looks like again, Estimate would be, the one to come. And I see here Crumble Cookies. Object was one of the slowest running backs in the draft, and he's more explosive than Javante. That should tell you something. Yeah, big time. That's very eye opening. Crumble Cookies. He is slow. You kind of envision him being that running back for like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Right?
Bruiser.
Those short yardage situations. Um, and he's again when he was on the field, he's good, but we just need to see him more. We just need to see him more because Javante is just ain't it. He ain't it.
No, it's a shame. We knew he was probably not going to be where he was, his rookie season, right? That's just such a debilitating knee injury, and the fact that he came back was awesome, but I think it just goes back to his vision as well. Like he's just not hitting the holes, even if he has that explosiveness. Like you're not using it, so it's pretty upsetting. And I would love to see Estime get more carries. I don't know if they're just trying to save him and they're like, hey, Javante's on the last year of his deal. We're just going to use him up and kick him to the curb. And then here comes Audric Estime and quite a good running back class this year as well. If they want to go that route, which I think they very well should. That's the dream right there. With this offensive line, forget about it, man. Oh my gosh.
Man, I see. And Rodney Garcia, I watch highlights of this guy every weekend, and I'm just like, to have this weapon alongside Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton. Like, just think of what Sean Payton can do with a Genty, a playmaker. Again, I just think that the Broncos need to, and I think they will, and invest heavily with playmakers. Now, people are talking about receivers, and I think the receiving core we have is actually fine, Dylan. It's running back, tight end. If you can get playmakers at those two positions, I think this offense can really be way better than what it is now. So, Nash and Genty, there are even a lot of good running backs even after Genty. There's Devin Neal. There are 2 of them out of Ohio State.
Caleb, what's his name from Iowa, is someone I keep an eye on as well. He's there's so many options.
There's so many, and what's so good about them? Not only, they run the ball well, but they can catch it out of the backfield and they can protect. They can protect, so they're very versatile. And it would just be nice to have that and a tight end. And again, tight ends the same way where there's obviously there's Colston Loveland, there's your Tyler Warren, I think Gunnar Helm, obviously Fannin out of Bowling Green. So I think the tight end is a little bit top heavy, and I think it kind of falls off a little bit after some of the names I mentioned. But running back, it's quite deep. It's quite deep. So the Broncos will definitely have their share of the litter when it comes to building up this offense around Bo. All righty. Let's see who else we have coming in tonight. Pro 16K says if we get 30 points Monday night, we win. Yeah, I think so as well. I think this will as well. I haven't really watched the Browns defense too much this year, Dylan. I'm going to be very honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I know they have Myles Garrett, which you have to account for. Denzel Ward. So they do have quite a few pieces, but I'm really not too concerned. Um, what Denzel Ward on Cortland Sutton. I mean, I'll take my chances with Sutton. I mean, I'm not concerned with that matchup at all. So yeah, I think Pro 16K. I think 30 should do the trick. I don't see the Broncos allowing the Browns any more than 20. Because it's Jameis Winston. It's I don't know. It's kind of hard. Sometimes he'll have those multi-interception games, and then other times he'll look like what he did against the Steelers about a little over a week ago. So, but you're right. I think 30 will definitely ensure a win for the Broncos.
Certainly, and the overall they're the 21st defense in the league.
Okay.
So not very good. They allow 345 yards a game, the 15th passing defense, 23rd rushing. And in terms of the scoring defense, they give up about 24 a game. So I think we break that mark. That wouldn't shock me. You mentioned Myles Garrett. He's an absolute beast and a game wrecker. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, those two corners, they're very good. But as a collective, haven't been doing so well. And this is a game where you going back to the ground game. You need to get that going and soften up this defense. And they're going to have their opportunities as they should. The Broncos' offensive line is very strong, and as long as the running back can hit those holes and find those creases in the defensive line, they should have a good night. And switching over, you talked about Jameis Winston. He is very erratic. That 30 for 30 season should tell you all you need to know. And just going into a game where you're playing against your former head coach and Sean Payton. Sean knows him very well, and that adds on to it. And you think also the Browns have given up the second most sacks in the league, and with the Broncos leading the league in sacks. So this could be a very rough game for Jameis. You might not even have to send a blitzer this game. It's just you get a little pressure on him, and he's going to make a mistake, and I think that continues Monday night.
Yeah, I know they've had some issues on that offensive line this year. I believe it was early in the season. It looks like it's still there where you have James kind of running for his life. So I know at tackle they're a little bit compromised there. But yeah, so you do bring up a good point. And again, Pro 16K, thank you for coming in. I wanted to grab. There was one question from String Guy. Yes, this one. Ron, Dylan, and anyone. Thank you again, String Guy, for coming in. How many targets and how many drops does Judy get this week? My prediction is 6 targets and 3 drops for under 50 yards. Yeah, I think it's going to be around that as well, String Guy. Yeah, anywhere between 6 to 9 targets. Yeah, a couple drops, perhaps. Anywhere between 2 and 4. And yeah, definitely I'll take the under on the yards for sure. Because he's gonna have PS2 on him, and PS2 don't give up no yards like that. So so yeah, that's probably a good prediction there, String Guy.
Yeah, and they're probably going to try and force feed him a little bit. Him and Njoku are going to be the primary targets, with Cedric Tillman still in concussion protocol as the days get closer to the game. Doesn't seem like he's going to play.
Yeah, they say he's out, I think.
He is out officially? Okay. Yeah, so they're sure going to try and force feed Judy, but like you mentioned, you're going to have PS2 on him. Obviously, they're going to try and exploit a matchup. They might want to put him on McMillan because he's been a little shaky these past couple weeks, and especially with the route runner like Judy, that could be troublesome. But the problem is Judy's great. He's got great footwork, and is great in his routes, but sometimes that leads to the routes developing a little slower. And with how bad this Browns offensive line has been, it could just take a few seconds, and Nick Bonito's already bending around the corner and taking him down.
Yeah.
So it's a factor of the offensive line not holding up, and who's going to be covering him, because PS2 is an All-Pro, best in the league. Like, obviously there's history there from Alabama matching up in practice, and then on the Broncos, of course. And now he wants to come in, and he was talking some mess. He said he wanted to come and whoop Denver's ass, come up back there. So I don't think it's going to happen, Judy. Sorry. You had years to produce, and now you're like, you know what? This is the game where it's going to happen. I remember you talking mess to Steve Smith Sr. and saying, "Oh, I'm going to go off," and then you ended up with a couple catches for under 50 yards. So, hey, man, you talk a little more than you produce. So
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm looking at the Browns. I mean, now with Tillman being out, yeah, Judy, Elijah Moore, and David Njoku. I mean, that's really, and you'll probably see. Well, they may mix it up. I'm thinking maybe Wallace on Moore. They may kind of mix it up with him being on Njoku sometimes, and maybe have McMillan on Moore. But yeah, I mean, this receiving with Tillman out, I'm not concerned at all. But thank you, String Guy, for coming in. We appreciate it, my guy, as always. All right, let's see who else we have in the chat. Thought I saw Samantha McCurdy coming in. Sammy, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. He says, "I'm late, but what's the word on Bo's injury?" It's not an issue, Samantha. Bo said he's good to go. I know he was having those issues with the back, but I think the media made it more than what it was. So he said up there at the podium that he is ready to go for Monday night.
Yeah, and that's good to see. Obviously, it happened towards the end of last week's game, and
that last touchdown, I believe.
And you got Garrett Bowles coming behind him after the game, patting him down. It's like, hey man, you finally got a quarterback. Don't break him. You're supposed to keep him upright. Let's take it a little easy on him. But yeah, I think the injury, it's probably just some soreness, I'd imagine. You got Max Crosby chasing after you all game. That's gonna happen. So yeah, he'll be fine, and he'll be ready to go, and hopefully on prime time put himself in a position to lead the pack in that offensive rookie of the year conversation, because last time he got a chance at prime time, it was against the Saints, and he had a pretty mid to okay showing. And this is going to be his chance to show the rest of the NFL world, hey, I am for real, and I am leading the race currently. Screw this. So many analysts talking about how it's a dead heat. Oh, it's so matched. Are you freaking kidding me? The same record, but Bo has the better stats. Like, what do you want? Obviously, there's a lot more pop with Jaden. He runs better, and you have the Hail Mary. Okay, take that out, and Bo Nix is easily the better candidate. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm a Broncos analyst. I'm a Broncos fan, but I just don't know how you see, you put them side by side, and you say, oh, it's pretty close.
Yeah, and with this offensive rookie of the year discussion, I'm with you. Jaden's had more moments, and he started off playing better. So he had a few of those prime time games. I think that one against Cincinnati where he had that deep ball down the sideline to Terry McLaurin. Obviously mentioned the Hail Mary, but these past 3 games, Jaden has struggled miserably. And so you look at him now, with an uptick in the interceptions, and Bo hasn't thrown an interception since, was it the Chargers? I believe was it the Chargers game. I think that was the last one. And you look at the numbers, and not only numbers. What do your eyes tell you? Like what does the film tell you? That he is seeing the field like a veteran. I mean, he and this Dylan, this Cortland Sutton connection with Bo. Like, I never would have thought that it would have been like this right now. And he needs to build that rapport with all the receivers, but a lot of those comebacks and a lot of those jump balls that you see with Cortland Sutton, it's like Bo knows where he is, and he's just gonna throw it right to him. And we know what Sutton is with the 50-50 balls. It's more 80-20 in his case. Um, but it's just such a good thing to see that the quarterback and the number one are on the same page. So again, hopefully that continues throughout. I think it will. And other players are getting involved, like Vele. Rodney Garcia. I hope Vele goes off with two touchdowns and Mims. Yeah, Vele's looking good as well. Kind of like a security blanket. If Cortland Sutton's covered up, you have Vele coming down with grabs and Mims in motion and Mims coming out of the backfield. So this offense is coming together at the right time. Again, it's just going back to the 1 weak link, a consistent run game. That's all it's missing.
Yeah, and you see Bo building that chemistry. It seemed like he had the chemistry all the way with Vele just from the start. Obviously, a lot of reps together in training camp, preseason, what have you. But yeah, that connection to Cortland Sutton has grown exponentially. And before the season, I was like, Cortland doesn't really seem like a Bo Nix receiver. It's not. He wasn't throwing a whole lot of jump balls in college. It was guys who are getting a little more open, like Troy Franklin. Hey, where are you at, buddy? Let's have a breakout game yourself there. But Mims as well needs to get integrated more. Obviously, we've seen some more stuff in the backfield to some mixed success. He'll break off one or he'll get stuffed in the backfield. He's a smaller guy. If someone breaks through the line, he's probably getting tackled. But he had some big splash plays against the Raiders, and you love to see that. But just I think you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the draft. Yeah, I think they need weapons all over, but I would prioritize tight end and running back above wide receiver. Not that they don't need help there, but I'm a little less concerned with it. I think they got some good guys here for sure, and obviously Troy Franklin was never really supposed to see the field so much this season, and you could see that he's got some growing to do as an NFL receiver, but they just got to connect on those deep balls, man. They're right there. They're right there, man, and those are just explosive plays being left on the field.
To what you just said, we hope so, Rodney. We hope so. That I mean, they're just missing each other by few yards, like overthrows, and so I hope it comes in this game. If not, if the Broncos get to the playoffs, hopefully it comes in the playoffs or in the weekend against the Colts. But that definitely does need to happen soon because Franklin does have that ability, but they just need to establish that connection. But thank you for coming in, Rodney. We appreciate that. Let's see who else. Keith Brugman coming in. I was thinking Keith involved. Thank you, Keith. We appreciate you, my guy. He said, Ron and Dylan, give a surprise player to watch for the Broncos on Monday, please. I'll let you take this one first.
Man, you know what? We've been talking about the run game all night. Obviously, Javonte Williams hasn't been getting it done. It's time for Estime to break out and get some more touches this game. I don't care how long Javonte's been here. His seniority doesn't matter to me. I don't care if Estime's a rookie. He's been making more explosive plays, again, with limited touches, but he absolutely needs to take control of this game, and I think they'll give him the rock, especially against this weaker Browns run defense. So I'm pulling for Estime to really show up and break out on Monday night.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, this is a tough question here, Keith. Um, I'm gonna say because we haven't, ever since he got that extension, we haven't really heard his name too much. Although he's been impactful, Jonathan Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the noise, rightfully so, has been with Nick Bonito. And the number of sacks that he has. Nick Bonito has been great, but I want to see more sacks coming from Jonathan Cooper. Um, so yeah, I'm going to say him, and he'll have his opportunities there, as we mentioned with Jameis scrambling. So he'll have plenty of opportunities to maybe have maybe like 2 sacks or so, and be impactful in that way on Monday night. But yeah, great question, Keith. Thank you for coming in with that one. All right, let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, we got 40 minutes. We'll give it a few more minutes here. Pro 16K, thank you. Are you guys a fan of Sean's trick plays?
It's
There's some I like. Well, the one in Baltimore was actually dope.
oh yeah.
When Nick's caught that pass, that was nice. That was nice. I think Sutton's 2 of 2 or 3 of 3 when
Yeah.
when throwing a pass. But yeah, I think some of them pro 16K. But then others kind of leave a lot to the imagination too. And again, I think if you had this kind of where you go with playmakers, having more playmakers on your team. Um, I think if you had some more playmakers on the Broncos team, you may see even more tricks in his bag, to where so you can probably get them executed. But I think that's probably part of it. But yeah, I think I would say I don't know how many they've ran, but maybe inching closer to half of the ones I've seen, I would say I like, and the other half I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, you've seen a few things here with Marvin Mims, and it's encouraging. You want to see him get more touches. It doesn't always work out, like we mentioned earlier. A lot of the success of trick plays comes with timing, and I think
Yeah.
that one against Baltimore was excellent timing. Like you don't expect a Philly special or a Broncos special in this case, and not only it's not like Bo was wide open; he had to go up and get that thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it is about the players in it as well. And obviously, we're lacking some playmakers, but Mims, you can do more with him, and they're still finding ways to get him. And figure it out, utilize him. Um, Sean, we knew he has kind of an ego, and he's a coach. If he's on your side, you love him. Kind of like I always think about Aqib Talib. If he wasn't a Bronco, I'd absolutely hate him. He's just that kind of guy. But Sean Payton's got a little bit of ego about him. You saw at the end of the Raiders game. It's like, hey, let's run the clock out, dude. What are you trying to throw passes and prove something? Let's get out with a win. So hopefully, that we don't see too much of that. If Sean Payton trying to do trick plays, let's try and keep it on a good scale there.
Yes, for sure. All righty. Let's see who else we have. So people are really high up, thinking that Estimate's going to get this ball and running crazy. See a few Estimate stat lines here. So yeah, again, let's see here. Crumble. Estimate's going for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. That would be nice. That would be nice. Or even Dylan, if you had something like how they ran the ball against New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
even if you have that day at the office, I think that's what kind of what we're asking for. Javante looked good doing that game. Now, granted, we know it's the New Orleans Saints and that defense, which isn't good, but if you can have that sort of running game production, I think we'll take that any day of the week. Um, so yeah, but yeah, SMA, be nice. I think if he is in this game, more touches he get, he's going to be very productive. I do believe so.
Definitely. And Keith brings it up here in the chat. Thank you, Keith. The Browns give up 130 yards a game.
Yep.
In terms of, do you see a single 100+ yard rusher from the Broncos? I don't know. They've been mostly doing a committee type of thing. Obviously, Javonte, sometimes he has a hot hand, and then in a couple games, you estimate with the hot hand. It's more of a committee thing, maybe. Maybe you see one of those guys get 100+ yards, but I think collectively, I think they could get up around 130, like the Browns give up average 150 even if they're having a real good day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Again, I don't see a single 100 yard. You may get somebody that's close, but yeah, collectively in this game, they can get over that 100 mark. 150 to 170 yards, maybe on the ground. Again, just depends on what Sean Payton calls and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely plausible. Um, Thank you, Keith. And then Rodney mentions this as well, which I think everyone's been kind of pining for this. Need to get our tight ends involved more in this game. Yeah, Dylan, it's just weird. And I know, remember that Panthers game where tight ends were used heavily. And I know it was National Tight Ends Day. I get it. But they need to get the tight ends involved. Now, again, I know they're not, the best playmakers. Troutman's just okay. Kroll is, I guess, somewhat dependable. Now that you moved on from Greg Dulcich, it's what do you do now? Can we get we got Nate Atkins, tight end fullback, and then also I was looking for a Parham elevation. So I don't know. It's so odd, Rodney, that I don't know what's going on with the tight end and that usage. Because you see, what Troutman can do when throwing the ball his way. It's just you need to give it to him more consistently. And who knows, maybe it's a trust thing with Bo. As we mentioned, Bo looks like he trusts Cortland the most. And Vele. So you see Vele and Court definitely be the ones that Bo trusts the most. But hopefully with time, as the Broncos still start to play some games and with Peyton's play calling, you'll see some tight ends involved more.
Yeah, hopefully. Like you mentioned, these are guys that kind of need to get schemed open. They're not game breakers. They're not, the Travis Kelce's of the world. So, and like you mentioned, the Panthers game, they made some plays, National Tight Ends Day, what have you. But they're never really going to be a focal point, especially not this year. So hopefully the Broncos can go. Maybe they find someone in free agency. Maybe the draft, Tyler Warren, please. I'm a really big fan of that guy at Penn State. But yeah, we need to see more from the tight ends, even if you have to scheme them open.
Yes. And like Phil says, thank you, Phil, for chiming in. Maybe Troutman will shine. Maybe. We will.
Oh, jeez. And I just got to click on this because the string guy brings up, we traded the only tight end that could catch a pass in Alvaro. I don't know what you're talking about. That dude dropped the pass or 3 every single game, and pretty sure he's out on the street somewhere. I think the Eagles
I think the Eagles
him.
released him. Yeah, they cut him.
We tend to have a little more love for guys that we drafted and whatnot, but he's just not it. He was fun, and him and Drew Lock, they both went to Missouri and they're catching pass from each other, but he was just woefully inconsistent. And there's a reason he got traded, and there's a reason that the Eagles let him go. I just don't see a point in him coming back here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, it's kind of similar to Greg Dulcich. Like, what value are you going to provide for this offense? And again, he wasn't the best blocker. When the ball was thrown his way, he would drop him. And I mean, you see the same thing with Dulcich. Not a good blocker. Because even when we were at the Steelers game, remember, I think that pass was thrown to him, just dropped it right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think with tight end, Broncos need to find their own Brock Bowers. And you look at Tyler Warren highlights, and you're like, that guy can do so many different things in a Sean Payton led offense. And he could definitely be that joker. He can definitely be that joker in this offense. But yeah, that's just one position they have to prioritize in the upcoming draft.
Yeah, go get that Jimmy Graham, man.
Yeah. Yep. All right, guys, we are at 50 minutes. So let's look at, we already talked about some injuries, but we'll do the recap, and then we'll give our predictions for Monday night. So we talked about Raleigh Moss out. Josh Reynolds is questionable. So he would need to be activated from IR in order to play on Monday. Full go, Zach Allen, Bo Nix, John Franklin Myers, who's dealing with that shoulder, Brandon Jones, and then PJ Locke. So they all have been designated as full goes for Monday night's matchup. And then the Browns, I just had it up here. They have quite a list here of injuries. So let's see here. The Browns, obviously, you mentioned Cedric Tillman being out. Jedrick Wills Jr. is out. Juan Thornhill, their safety, is out. And yeah, they have a bunch of dudes here sitting on IR as well. So, again, I think with the injuries there to the Browns team, this should definitely be more favorable for the Broncos. All right, Dylan, score prediction time. So who do you have winning Monday night's showdown?
Well, big primetime game at home Monday night. All eyes are going to be on Bo Nix and this Broncos offense because we already know the defense is good, but let's get Bo Nix under those primetime lights. Let's see how it performs. I think they're going to have a solid game. It might be a little bit harder to pass the ball, but like we talked about through the whole show, the run game is going to materialize here. The Browns have a terrible run defense. So I think the Broncos pull this one off, extending their win streak going into the bye week. Broncos take the win 23-16.
Cool. I like it. I like it. Yeah, the Broncos are feeling themselves now, which you gotta love. You know, you wondered after that heartbreaking loss to the Kansas City Chiefs how this team would bounce back, how they would respond, and in the two games thereafter with the Falcons and the Raiders, they've handled those opponents quite handily, and this Cleveland Browns team, even with the injuries, are a better team than what that record does indicate. Um, but I do have faith in Sean Payton and Vance Joseph. This Broncos defense will do enough to slow Jameis Winston down, to slow Nick Chubb down, and to contain a Jared Judy with PS2. And on offense, you like what you've seen with Bo and kind of how he's seen the field. I'm not concerned there. My two things on offense, as we just talked about, running the football is one, and they have to have a plan on the offensive line to prevent a Myles Garrett takeover. So if those two things are addressed, in which I think they will, especially that last one, and I think they'll run the ball enough. I think this is that game where they can do that, Dylan, that they will do that. If they do those two things, the Broncos will win, and I actually have them winning. So my final score is Broncos. It's a tight one. Broncos 24, Browns 21 to close out this week.
Love that.
All righty. Just kind of going through to make sure we haven't missed anyone. think we are good. Oh, one other thing here from String Guy before we go, because I think he asked this earlier. Dylan and Ron, do we win out? 12-5, baby. I don't think we do. I don't think we do, String Guy. I believe when we had our pod last week, I did have one loss going, and I think it was that. I believe it was actually to the Chargers. Um, but now I think this is that time where you might see the Chargers downfall. Um, and that game that was flexed to Thursday night may not be, you know, as hard as we once anticipated. But yeah, String Guy, I do see us. I do see the Broncos dropping at least one, but probably two at the most, but one. And again, the Chargers is one I predicted a loss. Um, and then again, that Cincinnati game is going to be tough too. Again, I don't think the Bengals are going to have much to play for, but that's still a potent offense with Burrow and Chase.
Yeah, I agree with you completely there. One loss, probably two wins. I could see it. There's some tough teams. Kansas City's likely to lock up the one seed. But in case there is some struggle there, the Bills are playing very well. They're going against a pretty beat up Niners team on Sunday night. It could still be a race. So are the Chiefs gonna sit their starters that last week? Do they just want to screw over the Broncos and say, hey, heck with your seeding? And like you mentioned, that Bengals game, although they seem pretty cursed, no matter what Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow can get done, that their defense just shoots themselves in the foot every single time. So I think I'll also say one loss, but there is some wiggle room there. I think two is possible.
Two is possible, yeah. But again, I think either way, I see the floor as 10-7. And yeah, String Guy 12-5 is definitely possible. Again, the Chargers have the Falcons this week. That's no gimme. And I think they have the Bucks, so their schedule gets a bit dicey down the stretch. And you might see, depending on what happens, if the Broncos keep winning, Broncos get up into that 6th seed. So that would be nice. My preference would be them if they can get up to the 5th seed, so they can go to Tech. They can go to Houston, because I do think if that's the matchup, the Broncos will definitely beat Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, that concludes our show for tonight. Again, we appreciate each and every one of you for joining us. Thank you so much for your questions, your comments. It does always bring about a lively discussion. If you have not already, make sure you subscribe to the Mile High channel on YouTube and like and share videos across all the platforms. We greatly appreciate it. And also check out our written content on milehighhuddle.com. You'll see breaking news. Obviously, our predictions are on there as well. So there are lots of different tidbits for you guys to check out. And if you guys have not done so already, make sure you follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. I am at Ron White NFL, and my partner in crime here is at Dylan Vaughn Arts MHH. Before we get out of here, want to just thank a few folks who contributed tonight, and I'll let Dylan take that on.
Yeah, thank you for joining tonight, folks. Had a great discussion as always. We're capping out here at pushing past 200 viewers. Absolutely amazing. Love to see that. And I want to give some extra love to our lone super chat superstar from tonight, David McGilrath. First one in, man. Always showing some love right at the top of the show. Always great to have you, my friend, and kept that optimism for 10-7 all season, and it looks like it's coming to fruition. So good on you, man, and thank you as always for coming in.
Yes, thank you, David. Again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. We greatly appreciate it. All right. Well, that concludes us for tonight. And enjoy the game on Monday. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.